So those of you who have been on this channel for a little bit know that I used to be a part of the military, and well, let's just say in the civilian world, I got a battle buddy that is just always wanting to scrap and fight. Like if Moses, Leonidas, and Peter from the Bible had a baby, it would be this person, and they irk the shit out of me because I'm essentially responsible for their stupidity and I have to explain what their actions are doing. So let's get into the title, Why God is a G. The reason why I came up with this title was because, well, my battle buddy, who's, well, very intelligent and been doing things for quite some time, asked me, well, Mike, you seem a little sane, so on and so forth, in comparison to a lot of others. You know, you talk about God, this, that, and the third, but I want to know how you view him. So I want to give you guys, well, some examples of not only how I view God, but, well, how I see it play out everywhere. Because if you think about it, God is in everyone and in everything. So let's talk about how God is a G. So let's get into it. We'll start with Moses since I mentioned it first, right? So as you can see, I got some little outlines here, so on and so forth, just talking points. So when I was dating this girl from Germany, so on and so forth, she wanted to start a business and do all these other things. And I just used the line from the Bible and I said, well, what's in your hand? See, most of us that are on social media nowadays don't realize that what's in our hand, a portable laptop that is condensed, can be utilized in so many ways. What do I mean? Well, you can start a social media channel. You can use it for photos. You can use it for video, as I'm doing right now. You can use it for other stuff. You can use it for portrait mode and take, social media creative for, let's say, an attorney's law firm. You can have a t-shirt company, so on and so forth. And I remember asking her, I said, do you not see what is in your hand? What is around you? Think creatively instead of jacking everybody else's stuff and trying to use it for yourself or your own because you lack creativity. If you need help, then do so. And if you can't afford it, well, then say that, so on and so forth. I mean, hell, we're all guilty of torrenting something back in the day, right? You guys remembered LimeWire, Napster, the story of Mark Zuckerberg, so on and so forth. I mean, come on. Who isn't guilty of that, right? Because some of these things cost a lot of money and, well, let's just say you don't learn about Dr. Milton Erickson and matching and mirroring just from a standard class that you can probably look at now on Google or with ChatGPT. See, back in the day, we had the encyclopedia, right? And then the encyclopedia got transferred to Windows 95 and 96, and I used to study that as well, just because I am a nerd and a geek. But let's keep going forward, right? Because the same individual that I told what is in your hand, so on and so forth, ended up getting a job. Now, I didn't know if it was funny or not, but it was funny to me, with a company called Extended Stay America after there were some altercations and things like that. And granted, she was from Germany and all this other stuff, and her boss, a director, was, let's just say African American, right? I don't want to say black because that's a color and they're more brown. Let's just face it, my mother's brown if you've seen pictures on my social media. So she gets upset one day and she goes, they're not listening to me. And I'm like, she's not supposed to listen to you because she is your director, so on and so forth, right? It's just like when Moses came down with the tablets after freeing the Jews and the slaves, so on and so forth, and he comes down with the rules and he breaks the tablets and he goes back up, so on and so forth, and they're not listening. They're not doing anything, so on and so forth. They're going back to their old ways, so on and so forth, right? But that's what children do, right? Right? What's the expression? We are all God's children. So you should expect children to do certain things, or the dog or cat will play when the other one's away, so on and so forth, right? And it's normal. Thing is, Moses was put in a leadership position. For my battle buddy over here, he was put in a leadership position. Remember, if Peter, Leonidas, Judas, and Moses all had a baby, it would be this person, right? Why? Because Judas wanted money, so on and so forth. He also dimed out Jesus, etc. Moses was put in a leadership position, but then he struck the rock twice to get his way because it didn't do it at a timely manner or the way he wanted it to happen. Leonidas looked back at his wife just like my battle buddy did, looking at his wife when he was on stage and saying, Brown's not bad, so on and so forth. Don't know if he was trying to get away with something else there, but in the movie, the first one, he ends up kicking the messenger down the hole, which triggers a war to start, so on and so forth. And then, of course, Peter always wanting to, well, get in there, fight, so on and so forth. If you guys seen The Chosen, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So this is how I identify this person. And if he could be a DC character, I would put him as Stephen Amell's character in Green Arrow, right? Where he's not Batman, but he really wants to be. Anyways, let's continue, right? Because remember, he went up, he got the tablet somehow, comes down with these heavy tablets and then breaks them, so on and so forth, because he's in shock and he's like, they don't want to listen to me. Well, guess what? This person also that I'm talking about that I dated from Germany, who had the African-American director, the person didn't want to listen to them. Now, as I fast forward, this person was reading a book on marriage. And I remember asking her one day, I said, that's what you want to do, right? That's something that you want to do? And she goes, no, I just want to learn how to control people with my words better. And it reminded me of this skit from Merlin. If you study, Arthurian, King Arthur and that his history, so on and so forth, with Merlin and the Round Table and everything else, Vivian was, ironically, that was their name. Vivian was the person that entrapped Merlin, so on and so forth, and then taught Morgana or Morgan some of the things that she was doing, so on and so forth, and it just played out over again, over and over in time. But it was just very interesting because she was trying to be nice to Merlin in the movie or in the story or in the book, and then, of course, betrays him and tries to punish him until somebody comes and frees him, so on and so forth. So it's just very interesting because the dynamics that this person's name was Vivian wanted to learn how to control people with their words better instead of, well, just doing what she was hired and intended to do was a big conundrum. And I just saw everything just flash before me, right? And then, of course, when she said they don't want to listen to me, that was like Moses saying, well, I came, with the authority from so-and-so, but now these people don't want to listen. And apparently they believe in this thing, right? So on and so forth, God, the universe, source, whatever the case may be, and then they get upset. Now we fast forward, Jesus Christ comes, so on and so forth, the Son of God, remember that, the Son of God, it's said many times in there. Now, that occurs, and then guess what? They don't listen to him, they put him on a crucifix, right? Or on a cross, right? But it's very interesting because God works in mysterious ways. And what I mean by this is that not only is God a G, but in the Bible, it talks about the 3 crosses. For those of you who like shooting handguns out there, you have 3 posts, right? And you have 3 ways and 3 points to line up to your target, right? And then, of course, you have the cross hairs, right? So on and so forth. But I'll get into that in a second once I start getting ready to wake up the military. If you're finding this valuable, go ahead and smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe to me. And then in a minute, I'll be waking up the military if there are any veterans or military personnel in here. So let's continue, right? So when it comes to God being a G, God wants to see how far you're willing to go, right? Because as they say, God will take your firstborn, but are you willing to make the sacrifice? So God went to Abraham, so on and so forth, and he went to sacrifice his son. Didn't think he was going to go through with it, but then at the moment he was going to go through with it, he stopped them, and then he gave him something else as a substitute in order to make sure that he was about that life, that he was a real one, right? Whereas you have the Pharaoh that wanted to keep testing and testing and testing, and then wanted money, wanted power, so on and so forth. Think Book of Eli, right? In the Book of Eli, they wanted the Bible in order to control people and collect money and, brainwash them, so on and so forth, instead of putting into practice what the book actually teaches. So, Pharaoh wanted to go ahead and get gully with God. This is just my translation, right? So God said, screw this. I sent you enough. I sent you plagues. I sent you COVID. I sent you this. I sent you the hacks. I sent you all this other stuff. How about we take your firstborn instead? Now you'll understand me, right? And guess what? Pharaoh was distraught, hurt, so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden he had to let the people go. Why? Because he wasn't getting it until something dramatic happened. Now, if you watch Tai Lopez or study psychology, Dr. Carl Jung, Dr. Jordan Peterson, if you know somebody out there with the name Vivian Campbell, who's a psychiatrist, she could tell you this. But most adults don't learn something through speech or through the lessons of others. It's normally after the age of 25, they need to get clonked on the head or have something physically damaging happen to either them or something in their life in order for them to understand. Mic check. All right, we're still good. So think about it. Pharaoh had all this power. He had all these slaves. He had all this other stuff going for him. And then somebody comes out of the blue and is like, yeah, I need you to let the people go. And he goes, no. All right, cool. So they sent locusts, or in this case, they sent whatever, right? And then they went and sent a COVID virus or coronavirus or whatever. No problem, so on and so forth. Then they sent other stuff. Finally, he got fed up and he just took the firstborn of the Pharaoh and the people that were not believers. Do you understand where this is going? Because history tends to repeat itself, but people don't care about that stuff. It doesn't play out today and age, right? We never had COVID or coronavirus. I mean, oh wait, we did. The president didn't get shot at and faked it. Oh, wait, we did. The president didn't go and screw over Barron, his son, so on and so forth, with the contract of if you make more than $100,000 a year, if you get a divorce, somebody cannot take your finances, so on and so forth. And there's no precautions or to keep your family secure because you wanted to go around screwing everything, making as many babies as possible, but you didn't want to be financially responsible for it. Wait, he did. So let's keep going, shall we? Let's keep going. So let's wake up the military for a second. So if you were in the military, where are my devil dogs at? If you were a devil dog, go ahead and smash the like button. Go ahead and leave a comment down below. Semper Fidelis. When we cross the street, do you have this pattern? Ready? Your drill instructor or drill sergeant will say to you, look up, down, left, right, so on and so forth, right? Hold on one second. Name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Look up, down, left, right, so on and so forth. Are you guys picking up what I'm laying down, or are you just standing by to stand by? I need people to start taking action before action starts actually happening, right? There's a thing called cloud seeding, but people still think it rains naturally. You don't grow grass in a desert without, well, I don't know, water and seed, so on and so forth. How did that get there? Use your brain and ask the right, proper questions. So let's keep going, right? Being that I'm a devil dog, so on and so forth, there are different branches of service, right? And it doesn't matter where you are, but let's say you're in the army, you say HUA. And some people, if they watched the Matthew McConaughey movie, Ghost of Girlfriend's Past or something like that, they would say that that stood for heard, understood, recognized, and acknowledged. Great for you, so on and so forth. Then you got Air Force, and then you got the Navy, and you got the Coast Guard and Space Force, and they may say UA or whatever, so on and so forth. But in the Marine Corps, we say URA. It all sounds very similar, but it's different, right? Because, well, who's Ra, right? For those of you who study spirituality and, Egyptianology or Egyptian mythology, so on and so forth, you would know that Ra was the sun god. Yes or yes, right? Now, the sun god, so on and so forth, was very closely associated with the pharaoh and things like that, so on and so forth. However, there were some distinctions between everything else. And then you had Horus and you had Osiris and you had all these other gods to explain certain things, etc. And then from there you have, well, the Greek, etc. But most people don't pay attention to Greek, so we're going to translate part of the Greek or the Bible from Greek, mix that with Latin, and we're going to put some other stuff in there to see who's smart enough to figure some of the things out. And then we're going to see if they could figure out that the story does keep going and who is fearful of reading the next story, like, let's say, the Quran, so on and so forth, right? You shouldn't be scared to read a book or study something else. Let's keep going, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, we had the Book of Eli. Now, in the Book of Eli with Denzel Washington, who was blind in the movie, so on and so forth, he probably said to himself, I'll probably kill him myself if so on and so forth. But I don't know. I don't remember the whole movie completely. However, I do remember a scene where the gentleman, the white guy that was in charge of everything, was like, you don't understand, with that book, with that power, so on and so forth, those words, we could rule these people. We could get them to do whatever we want. If you ever seen the movie The Librarian, they were talking about Solomon's temple, right? And Solomon had the power to control demons, so on and so forth, etc. Do you not think that the Bible possibly could have been a book or a condensed library of other books, as Dr. Jordan Peterson says, to control demons, i.e., the psyche or the understanding of life inside of other individuals that reside here as species that we know or identify as humans? Yes or yes? I mean, think about it, because how many people believe in God, a source, so on and so forth? It's just named different things in different areas, right? They talk about the firmament, and then they talk about this, they talk about that. They say Earth's not round, it's flat, so on and so forth. But if I show you a CD or a record that they used to play back in the day, is it round or flat, or is it both? Think about it, right? But most people want to pretend either that they don't know or that they're smarter or whatever. I used to have this uncle that would point out every time something was a flaw in a movie. Hey, did you see that? Hey, did you see that? Hey, did you see that? Yes, you dumbass. I've seen it already, and I already know about it. Stop being you're like a heckler at a comedy show, so on and so forth, that thinks that they're going to get one over on the comic, right? Imagine Joe Rogan on stage and some douchebag, so on and so forth. I'm not going to say any names, battle buddy, but he tries to be a heckler. Joe Rogan would fucking destroy you, so on and so forth, right? Why? Because that is his craft, that is his skill, that is something that he's been doing for years, etc., right? But you want to critique something because you think you know something, right? Because why? Because you have technology, because you have people telling you stuff, because somebody has a chip somewhere and you're getting and receiving all this information, or maybe we are all connected like one, so we're just going to go ahead and repeat and regurgitate the same thing over and over again to brainwash people. Because if you get somebody to hear something over and over again, for you marketers out there, you get to brainwash people into believing something that might be good for them. Yes or yes? That's why you read the advertising policy before you advertise, so you don't run into any legalities. Am I right or wrong? So you shouldn't abuse power, especially the knowledge that which you have obtained. Because here's the thing. In the Bible, in many books, it talks about, well, the tree of knowledge. If you watch Da Vinci's Demons, they talk about the book of leaves, so on and so forth. The book of leaves, paper, so on and so forth, right? Etc. It's just another terminology for it, right? Like a grimoire, so on and so forth, right? But we're not going to talk like that, because grimoire revolves around wizardry and witchery and all this bad stuff. So we're going to call it a book. Let's just say a book, not a type of book. Let's just leave it like that. And then we'll just let everybody else come up with their own name for it. And then we could use that to control people, right? Like the 72 virgins that you see once you sacrifice yourself as martyr. But if you ask ChatGPT and you read the goddamn book, you'd understand that it doesn't say anything in there about that, does it? Go ahead, ask ChatGPT, ask Gemini. Anyways. So as I said earlier, God is in everyone, and in the librarian and in other belief systems, so on and so forth, Buddhism especially, so on and so forth. It would inform you on this, right? So on and so forth. Because even in the Bible says, I put something in you, etc., right? And you are to act as such. But yet we are getting controlled. That's why they use the term sheep. That's why they use the term lamb. That's why they use other terms, so on and so forth. But people aren't putting two and two together, because they're playing this little Black Mirror game like people never seen this before, which is so retarded, right? It's so stupid. Whatever. I digress and I continue, right? So, what is balance and how did other gods deal with it? Well, I mentioned Buddhism, so let's get into Hinduism. Well, you can ask Kali and Shiva and Vishnu and Brahma how they dealt with it, so on and so forth. And for you martial artists out there, well, Kali is part of Hinduism, but Kali in the martial arts world could be the Filipino martial arts fighting of, well, sticks, knives, and hand-to-hand combat, or otherwise known as Eskrima or Panatukan, which is empty hands, so on and so forth. But you're getting the gist of it, right? So how do you create balance? Well, earlier I talked about my battle buddy always wanting to start something because he mentioned Revelations and he wanted to see the sky crack, so on and so forth. I think he caught a hint of Pharaoh and Leonidas, but he didn't watch the second part of 300. See, Leonidas wore a red robe, similar to like Republicans, etc., so on and so forth, or the redcoats from the UK. And during that whole process, Disney actually enacted the King Charles Act. And if you ask Gemini or let's see, ChatGPT, what companies or what countries or what entities own the largest amounts of land, well, you would see King Charles in there and something that goes with King Charles III, so on and so forth. Not only that, but if you've watched X-Men, you know that Charles Xavier, so on and so forth, was a little special, right? If you've seen the movie, he spoke with an English accent, probably for a reason. But you can't say everything and give you full sight on something because people still don't get it, so on and so forth. Because some people need more logic than anything else to employ their creativity. Let's continue. So, what is the understanding of suffering? Well, a lot of people think suffering. Remember the book of Eli, where the person can misconstrue certain things so that people don't fully understand and then they could brainwash them. Oh, you're supposed to suffer. So you're supposed to be broke. You're supposed to not be able to have a job. It's supposed to be hard. In certain areas, you nimwit, so on and so forth. Yeah, when you go to the gym, you suffer. Why? Because if you suffer in the gym a little bit by putting your body in underneath stressful environments such as lifting weights, doing cardio, etc., it saves you from going to seeing an actual doctor, and you can actually expel the toxins in your body through sweat, speed up your metabolism. The processed crap that you put in it moves through your metabolism and body a lot faster, and it leaves it through your, rectum, your stool samples, so on and so forth. As Bruce Lee would say in the art of Jeet Kune Do, it takes what is useful and expels what is useless. That is what your body does. If you do not understand that, then you need to understand this. You are playing with fire if you think that controlling people with certain things, like the Bible, like the Quran, like other spiritual teachings, isn't going to come back and bite you in the ass when everybody wakes up, then you're sadly misconstrued. Why do I speak like this? Well, in certain branches of service, because we cross-train a lot, there's something called paralinguistics. Now, in magic, where some of you may know this about me, I used to perform more than 20 plus years, going on 25 now, if not, probably a little bit more, but it's called a performance art, so on and so forth, right? Because the way you speak can come off either like poetry, if you're rhyming your words with rhythm and time, and then from there you match the line to the word that you wanted to say before everybody came into this, and it sounds something that hooks people in, right? See, rappers and hip hop artists understand this, because they're aggressive poets, right? You would understand this if you've seen the Dead Poets Society, so on and so forth, or other forms of artistry that not only captures the eye, but the ear. Now, the purpose of the tone and the pitch is not only to capture the ear, but to capture the eye. See, I don't know how many individuals respond to certain things because, well, let's face it, in the Air Force, they talk very sweet and they talk very nice, so on and so forth. But in the Marine Corps or the Army, we're a little bit more firm, so on and so forth. And then we use our speech in a certain way, right? And you can learn this from Evie Pomporis, who is former Secret Service, Andrew Bustamante, who's somewhat intelligent himself. He was in the Air Force, etc. I'm not bashing at him. I just don't want any more Blue Falcons out there to come out the woodworks. But he should know about paralinguistics and how to combine that with echolocation. That's a form of communication with technology. We'll leave that one between us. And then how to match that with, well, using Micro Expressions by Paul Ackman. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. So you match up your tone, your pitch, the words being used on camera with micro expressions after you prime somebody and put them in a certain state to either tell the truth, to heighten them, or break them out of their baseline. And then you could understand whether or not they are telling the truth or not. Yes or yes. Am I getting close? Let's continue. So when it comes to suffering, right? What is suffering? Yes, you suffer a little bit, but what do you identify as suffering? What do you identify as suffering, right? Do you identify not being able to get a job as suffering? Well, in essence, especially if you know that there are entities behind it, right? Do you identify not having finances and then everybody like little children gets to point the finger, oh, you can't do this, you can't blame the world, blah, 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 blah. And then you provide them with evidence and proof on how you caught them and then go, we could talk about this. See, what had happened was, if you think Kevin Hart, be like, see, what had happened was we just wanted to see if it was going to work or if it was real or not, so on and so forth. It's like my little sister. Hey, don't get near the stove. I'm about to light a candle, so on and so forth. And she goes, what? And like a moth to the flame with Mercury stepping out of the way, she keeps going and going and going. And because she has long curly hair and leans forward, not paying attention because she's still curious and she wants to, well, be knowledgeable and learn about fire, her hair catches on fire. And then somebody, her big brother, has to go ahead and put her hair out, so on and so forth. And then she goes and lies to the parents, so on and so forth. Michael put my hair on fire. No, genius. Michael told you to stay away from the fire. He was lighting a candle. You didn't want to listen. You wanted to keep getting closer and closer and closer. And then boom, now your hair's on fire, so on and so forth. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? All right? You're not going to blame yourself for doing something stupid, right? You're going to blame somebody else. I have another uncle, David, so on and so forth. Falls off the monkey bars. We're in New York City in a decently nice area. The monkey bars are, if you grew up in New York City, you know that monkey bars are metal in cement, so on and so forth. He falls off the monkey bars. He says that his older brother was the one that moved the monkey bars and made him fall, so on and so forth. What kind of bullshit is that, right? What kind of bullshit is that? Think about it. That's not suffering. That's lying through stupidity causing you to suffer, etc., right? But then there's other nefarious actors, because I remember we cross-trained with the Mexican military at one point. We were teaching them about ammunitions and stuff like that. But I also asked them questions about torture. And one of the things that they talked about, not only with the cartel and other gangs, was that they used to pull people's teeth out because sometimes they would put recording devices in their teeth or remove the option for them to actually, how do I say this, excommunicate themselves, so on and so forth, because they used to have like a cyanide capsule or whatever the case may be. But if you study history, if you study all this stuff, you would understand that, well, you have headphones. I want to say they're called Jawbone or something like that. And it works off of the bone condension or condension. I forgot the name of the terminology or the word, but the vibrations that go into the skull from the bone itself. So it doesn't actually go into the ear, but it goes and sits right on this bone right here. And it's able to transfer sound, so on and so forth. Same thing can be done with tooth implants, etc. But they already know about this because they get trained as well from people that were former military, and they inform them about all these things. And that's how some people not only get caught, but it gets traced back and their teeth get removed, etc., so that they have to tell them any type of information. And let's just face it, information is the most valuable form of currency. But when you're dealing with people that are dealing with old technology, trying to do new things because they're scared of whatever the case may be, well, there's going to be a lot of issues, right? But is that a form of suffering, right? If somebody wants to play a game, right? Oh, I'm going to track your phone. I'm going to track your mouth. I'm going to do this. I'm going to implant some thoughts, etc. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm either going to push you beyond your barrier or see how much you can take, because they say the certain jobs in the world, there's a lot of mental training. And as Andrew Bustamante, who does a lot of lying, he's not good at it, but does a lot of lying. No offense to him. He's just not good at it. Talks about how for military, when they want to go into the CIA, so on and so forth, it takes years of practice, so on and so forth. But he also said it only takes $300 US dollars to get in and out of almost any place, which is bullshit, so on and so forth. Why? Because I've spoken to and I've worked with some individuals, and they both can probably confirm this, where in one pocket you have at least a couple grand, let's say $10,000. And in the other pocket, you have a first aid kit in case you get injured and you have to, well, patch yourself up and get out of the country. Because let's face it, how much is a plane ticket? How much is a hotel for you to, well, stay somewhere, depending on what country you're in, right? Then, of course, you want people to stay quiet, so you're not going to give them the bare minimum, and you can't do that with $300. So you're going to need a couple $1,000s, etc. And therefore, by which you pay them a couple $1,000s, not only to stay quiet, but possibly to get a local doctor to assist you, so on and so forth. And we know doctors aren't cheap. We can talk about that later on, so on and so forth. But let's just come to facts here, right? If this is all known, then what the hell are they trying to do? Because it is not world peace. It's not peace at all. And the only thing I'm hearing is a lot of shit talking from people that don't know what the hell it is that they're talking about, right? They talk about, oh, well, can you neutralize a target, this, that, and the third? It's administratively difficult. No, it's not. It really isn't. It really isn't. And I think he could confirm that. It really isn't. It's just a good ploy or sarcasm at play, right? It really isn't. If they wanted to do something, they would do it. I know. I've seen it. I've seen it. So let's continue. It's easier to speak truth. Ask a lawyer. Why? Because lies will put one in prison, will it not? Now, let's talk about this, right? Because there's a lot of people selling stuff in business, this, that, and the third, etc. But if you're not speaking the truth, right? If you're not developing something that's genuinely going to help people, and you're just bullshitting your way through anything, right? The moment you get caught in a lie, so on and so forth, it is going to come back and bite you in the ass, whether that is through a lawsuit or whatever the case may be. How many lawsuits got put on pause when Trump came into office? I'm going to say this again. How many lawsuits got put on pause when Trump came into office? Notice he's acting differently. Why is he acting differently? He's probably on someone's tit right now, so on and so forth, or on the take right now, or has his hands tied with something known as golden handcuffs, whatever the case may be. And it's hard for him to do certain things because, well, if he gets out of line, they're going to bring those cases up and it could lead to his impeachment. So who are the people behind the curtain? Why don't you ask those questions? Who are the people pulling the strings? Why don't you ask those questions? Who are the people that tell others to look up? Because if it's up, then it's up. And if it's up, then it's stuck, right? So I beg you, I implore you, I am with, I don't even have tears anymore for most people. I hope something happens just so I could say, I told you so again. But for those of you who like to play with fire and play games, so on and so forth, you better be careful because one day you're going to come across other individuals that know about you, that know about the things that you're doing, so on and so forth, that know about the games that you're playing when you talk about Skinwalker Ranch or the Bible, the Quran, and use it for the misinterpretation for your own personal power and to control one's beliefs. And they're going to beat the shit out of you. I'm just here to deliver a warning to those of you who like to play with fire because, yeah, Leonidas may have kicked the messenger down the hole, but it was the gentleman, the same one that was in Blind Spot, that wore a blue cape, kind of like Marines when we wear our dress blues, that ended up assisting the queen after Leonidas died in winning the war. So, if you found this valuable, if you found this interesting, if you found this fascinating, I just want to say thank you. By all means, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. This has been another episode of Finding Freedom in homage to, well, Fast and the Furious, my father, uncle, and his friends, so on and so forth. And of course, the movie Finding Forrester, because as I come to realize certain things, people have been taking stuff my whole life and have been putting it into their own words so that they can capitalize on it. And in the movie Finding Forrester, Sean Connery actually stands up and confesses that he used Forrester's words, not his own, so on and so forth, or vice versa. I'll let you watch the movie since you want to play with Mandela effects, and I'll test your memory on the next video of Finding Freedom. Till next time, my friends, take care, God bless, adios.